Yes, we extend a warm welcome back to our third and final part of the problem statement. My name is Philip Bandholtz. I am a trained systemic coach, and I help harmony-seeking fathers reclaim their place in the family. And I engage in this activity very, very frequently with such a system board. And during the process, it consistently unfolds in a manner that is quite similar to a typical family or organizational setup, demonstrating a remarkable resemblance in its dynamics and structure. We have a setup and then we go through steps one by one. The client rearranges, conversations take place, but here's something strange happening. We're not just setting up people. You'll see. But first, we'll start here again with a preliminary discussion, and the questions in it will be the same. What is your topic? The topics for the problem statement are specific problems that may not necessarily be related to the system, but rather occur within the individual. For instance, how can I rediscover myself once more? How can I cultivate self-love? How can I acquire additional self-assurance? Or how can I manage to take this step in my life that I've wanted to take for a long time but just can't bring myself to do? The client comes to us with questions that are focused on problems. They want to know why they can't do certain things. Why do I feel this way all the time? And from here, we will then formulate a question to the system that must be goal-oriented and solution-oriented. How can I manage to return to my true self? As an example, I will now consider the question of how can I rediscover my true self? And now we are going to establish 6 individuals or objects, or rather shapes, that symbolize them. Certainly, we recommend these options, but not the specific choice of figure made by the client. The first thing we always take is a representative for the client. Now, I'll take this one here. The second thing we need is a goal. We already have the goal now, and we should also write it down on a note next to it, which the client can see as well, because otherwise it will become a bit confusing. The objective at this moment is to discover my true self. In my case, this is generally the objective in the majority of situations. Here again, a brief note on how cool it is that we have such figures, because that is anything but self-evident. And perhaps by now you have also realized why it is somehow not ideal when some people, for example, use Plimo figures or Lego figures to do such a setup. Because these figures, firstly, they all smile, so they are not neutral, and they have a specific hair color, they have specific clothes. All of this influences all these processes we have here. Our feeling of what we want to set up here is influenced by how the figures look. That's why they're also neutral here. Maybe you've wondered. So now I find it nice we have a white angel here, I always call it. So that is our objective, and as previously mentioned, we also write the objective on a piece of paper. Thirdly, we jot down a resource that has been overlooked. So we write down overlooked resource on the note. We don't know yet what this resource is. That's something like my love, my self-confidence, my worth, my courage. Any resources we have. It could also be human resources. It could be my brother who can help me solve this problem. However, currently this resource is in a state of obscurity. I am unable to locate it within myself due to either a lack of visibility or insufficient utilization, resulting in the resource remaining in the dark at present. So we are not writing about courage, but we are writing about overlooked resources. For some reason, this is the overlooked resource for me. Even has eyes, doesn't have to be. We can also set up multiple resources if we realize during the setup that there are several resources we can use. However, we start with just one at first, so the focus is truly only on one, because otherwise in the setup you have the situation where you have 2 resources, both wondering who they really are. Next comes an obstacle, and here I find it so great that we now have these figures because they are used frequently. An obstacle can indeed look like that, there is no question about it, but here we also have a few blocks and pieces, and that is just a wonderful thing. I would not identify the obstacle by its name at this moment. Sometimes it is so obvious that we can simply write it down. What is actually your obstacle? Why can't you find yourself? Yes, I always doubt myself, for example. If that was already mentioned in the preliminary discussion, then we can also write it down directly. Obstacle, doubt, our obstacle. The future comes as the 5th. Task. Here I just pondered for a while, and a client may take a long time to decide on the appropriate figure. For some reason, this is the future task for me. It's not necessarily clear yet, but it can be clear, similar to an obstacle. Our obstacle at the moment might be self-doubt, or it could be the task that lies ahead, which we need to fulfill in order to achieve our goal, which is to find inner clarity. The task that awaits us in the future could then be building trust. So I have the task of trusting the universe or the world, my environment, my brother, whatever it may be, just so you have an idea of what future tasks could mean. So she also joins in, and then lastly, we address the secondary gain. Now you may be wondering, what is the secondary gain? The secondary gain refers to the advantage I possess by not attaining or actively working towards my objective. In this situation, my secondary advantage could be that I concentrate completely on others and consistently provide them with what they desire so that they have affection for me. This is a secondary gain I have from not being fully present, because when I am present, it may also mean that I have to set boundaries, that I have to tell people when things don't please me, and I can avoid that by simply not being present. So that is my secondary gain. Another example to make it clear. Illness often has a secondary gain, specifically that individuals take care of me and feel sorry for me, for instance, or provide me with attention and recognition. The secondary benefit is currently present in this location. All right, so at this point in time, I have the client, I have the goal, I have the overlooked resource, I have the obstacle, I have the future task, and I have the secondary gain. They are standing here now, and now the whole thing is actually going exactly like the setup from earlier. So now you can actually include the template again and proceed with the processes using it. Initially, the client will set up. This can take a considerable amount of time. A typical scenario is that the client has the goal within their line of vision, but the obstacle blocks him here. The overlooked resource is somewhere, looking in the other direction. The future task is still lying ahead of the goal, and the secondary gain is positioned right next to it and feels incredibly good. They can also cuddle a bit, but the setup can really look completely different as well. It's often the case that the goal, for example, looks away and is somewhat lost and in a losing position. And now we ask again, how does the goal feel? There's not necessarily a hierarchy here, but I would always start by asking about the goal. Yes, how does the goal feel? And then you just go through the sequence, asking how everyone feels, and then processes are initiated again. Then you examine the obstacle, and eventually the disregarded resource will emerge and become apparent. And this is actually always a very important step here. So this small overlooked resource here is actually incredibly important because we need to figure out what it is. And then of course it eventually gets closer and stands next to the person here. This is even an example of something I experienced myself with a client. And it happened in a way that the resource came closer, and then this secondary gain was allowed to slowly move a bit further away, and the obstacle was also allowed to move a bit further away because they were both really great, she said. She said it feels great that they're there, and then the resource arrived and could give strength for them to leave. And at some point they were gone. And that's also a process that can make sense here, that at some point you simply say, okay, let's just remove the obstacle now. Let's give it a try. What happens if we simply remove the obstacle? And then the client often says, wow, it feels liberating. Now I have the upcoming task ahead of me, which is trust. And trust indicates, hey, come here, you can accomplish it, you're permitted to do it, come to me, let's collaborate on it, and so forth. Yes, and here it was now that the secondary gain was also moving further away, and eventually, who spoke with the client that was overlooked as a resource. And the client assumed the role of the overlooked resource and immediately understood the nature of the resource. And that was truly exhilarating and incredibly touching. That was indeed the affection of the customer. The client then simply realized that she has to accept, embrace, and live out her own love for herself. And in doing so, she finds herself, she had a big problem in the family and a big problem in her career at the same time. And because we didn't know which setup we wanted to do, we made a decision on this particular one. We contemplated what she requires to address both challenges at present. And she just said, I have to find myself. I have to be with myself again. Can I also deal with these things? She was already over 50 and had mastered such experiences several times in her life. And that was the solution in this particular case. In the end, for instance, the objective and the customer look in the same direction and share a common vision. The future task is also included. Additionally, the resource is of great importance. It stands very close to the client. Here you have to play a little. It's a bit more creative. It may be that at the end of your course here, all of this still seems a bit overwhelming to you and you think, how am I supposed to do this now? My recommendation is to commence with an exceedingly straightforward topic from a friend, a client, someone you have trust in, and simply give it a try just to see how it goes. In case of doubt, try it with yourself, but it's also good to practice with a client. Do it 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and then you will truly understand what I mean here. You will genuinely feel the manner in which the entire thing operates, and you will have an experience with it that is valuable, worthwhile, and beneficial for you. For that, you obviously need a motherboard. Like I said, my absolute recommendation is this particular one. Great price, high quality, everything included. Get system board if you don't have it already. Then you practice the setup in the family or organization 3, 4, 5 times. You perform the problem statement multiple times. And this one might even be easier. So if you notice you're having difficulties with family and organization, just give the problem statement a try. And I give you my word, you will be absolutely thrilled and amazed by the incredible and outstanding results you will achieve through this process. With that, you are hopefully equipped and can get started. Now, I want to give you a few small creative ideas so you understand the true possibilities and the direction in which all of this can still go. You also have these strings, which I haven't mentioned yet. These can also be used, for example, to indicate a connection between two people when we have a larger setup. They're also quite big. Here you have the diagonal of the board, so you can fully utilize the whole thing. And you can also participate in exciting activities here. For example, you can set up zones on the board. At this particular moment, you now have the capability to articulate the following. Here is our problem space, here is our pain space, here is our resource space, and here is our solution space. And then you can say, okay, client, in which room are you standing right now? Yes, I am in the problem space. Now take a look over there into the room of pain. Who's there? Yes, there's the memory of when I was still a little boy. There is the separation from my spouse. There is the rejection from my maternal figure. What do I have knowledge of? And what do you see over here when you look this way? What do you have in your resource space, for instance? Yes, can you provide some examples? And then we can also put some things in there. Again, the client can go in there, talk to them. We can do all sorts of things like that. We can have a look at the space available for solutions in this area. And this is simply a small idea, a little nudge from me to you to also get creative and think outside the box with the whole thing. Once you have practiced it a few times, you can truly do with it in the end whatever you want or desire. Try it out. There are unlimited possibilities to work with this. It's a creative board. The company is named ideen.kollektiv. Therefore, please feel free to share your ideas with me or with us. Yes, we're always curious about all the things one can experience here, on Instagram or on other channels. So I wish you the best of luck on your personal journey, whatever purpose you may have for it. My hope is that this system board and the videos I have recorded for you here will be of great assistance to you, enabling you to make a positive impact and bring people closer to their dream life. That would really touch me, because that's ultimately why I do what I do. My name is Philip Bandholtz, and I wish you all the best with your new system board. Have fun.